Welcome to the Prairie Puck Podcast, Episode 5. I'm your host this week, Coach Ryan D. with Hot Garbage Sports. I'm joined by my two regular colleagues, Jake from Peg City Hockey and Zach Nolan of the Nolan Hockey Podcast. Boys, what a week. This is going to be a contentious episode. We're about to get fired up.
Hot topic.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, so Jets, Habs, Game 1. Habs win. There are so many good things to talk about in this game from a Habs perspective. There are so many hockey things to talk about from a Jets perspective. There's all these storylines ruined by a polarizing, bone-crunching, as Paul Maurice would call it, heavy hit from Mark Schiefele. Jake, you are by far the most passionate about this. You have the sunglasses on because, well, maybe you're done. Let's hear your take on the hit. Tell me about it.
I am done. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been reeling from this after watching it live with all of you on my live streams as I usually do. And this game broke me for a lot of different reasons. And then that hit was the icing on the cake. That's the hit that put me in the casket because I hate it. And it disgusts me. And I don't like it. And you might be thinking right there, I don't know anything about hockey. I'm soft. I don't understand the game. I really don't care if that's what you think. Because I look at this from the stance, you don't need to hit a guy in that situation. I don't have a problem with the hit. Anything with the hit. The hit wasn't dirty. It's everything leading up to the hit. That's my biggest thing that frustrates me, angers me, drives me insane. It's not the hit. It's not a headshot. It's not anything that happened while he hit the ice because I hope Evans, and I'm so happy that he is okay. Thank God that he is, not even having to go to the hospital. But what angers me the most is every single thing leading up to the moment contact was made between Mark Scheifele and Evans at that goal line. That's what frustrates me. That's what drives me absolutely insane. Not the hit. So,
Jake, let me ask you a question about that though.
Absolutely.
So you said you don't think it's a headshot, but the NHL Safety Committee releases a video and says headshot. That's probably the most polarizing thing fans, myself, and everybody have talked about. Did he target the head? The NHL says he did. So the NHL says the hit was dirty. The elbow came up and he jumped. I personally will tell you my judgment after this, but
really, I didn't see that floating around.
So
that's not a good opinion to throw around. That's not.
So the NHL Safety Committee released a 3-minute video on this, and basically every piece of analytics that I looked at for this video and many others, some agreed with it because they had the analytics the other way. I don't think he jumped. I don't think he targeted the head. I think you're allowed to play the body, but here's the 3 things they pointed out. He makes contact with the head, number 1. Number 2, they said he left his feet. Number 3, they even admit, here's the most controversial piece to this video. They admit in the video breakdown that there is no rule in the NHL stating you must play the puck first. They say that in the video because there is no rule in the NHL saying you must play the puck first. You are allowed to play body. And then they go, but they actually say, but in this instance, we feel that Mark Scheifele should have played the puck first, and that increases the intent.
Good job, NHL.
They changed their opinion of their own rule mid-stride and admitted they were doing it on video, and here we are. So every opinion that you have on that, sorry, Jake, it's wrong according to the NHL. Wow. It's a head check, it's a jump, and he should have played the puck first, even though it's not a rule that you should. Give me your take on that.
Well, one, the NHL is wrong because if you have a pair of eyes and you have any ability to, with the internet, you can watch multiple different takes, approaches to dissecting that hit, and you see for a fact maybe when a guy actually makes contact like that, he's going to leave his feet. But when you watch everything frame by frame, slow motion, I don't understand how you can justify that.
Yep.
I don't. Now, when I first saw it live, and even with the angles that were being shown on the national broadcast, I thought it was at first dirty. The day after, and also after that game and whatnot in the evening, I've changed my opinion on that. That's the one area that has changed only for me after it has happened. My decision has stayed the same, but that hit, in my opinion, wasn't. And that surprises the hell out of me.
So
I've seen almost a consensus within the fan base, even Montreal's side of it, that it wasn't much of a headshot. More of that everything leading up to it was just a whole very, very unnecessary, horrendous thing that happened. I've never seen that take being thrown out yet.
So Zach, I'm going to let you jump in on this next take, but I'm going to add a few more things to it because I have watched this video over and over again. There are people who are commenting on my wall. There's people everywhere. They all have an opinion. Everyone's opinion is fair, by the way, but there are people who are saying he skated too far. It's a charge. There was violent intent. He didn't play the puck. It was it was a headshot and he jumped. And guess what? The entire NHL Safety Committee They agree with everything. That's why this is a 4-game suspension. Everything Scheifele did was wrong. It should not happen in the game of hockey, according to the safety committee. Zach?
Okay, so now I don't want to be bad cop here. I'll make that stance originally, but I'm going to lay out a couple things right now. Does he jump? No, he doesn't. He just doesn't. And I've actually seen this floated around. A couple people have said this, and I don't agree with it in the slightest. Does he leave his feet? Yes, after contact is already made with Jake Evans. There's also a photo around of, for example, of what there's a very bad angle. If it's from behind Scheifele, where Evans' head is turned the other way. Why is it turned the other way? Because he's doing a wraparound. That's why it's turned around. Scheifele didn't snap his neck around. No, Evans is looking there. And that's one of those things where you have to say, and I guarantee Evans will never be looking like that when he goes for a wraparound again.
Whoa, hold on. This is Jake Evans' second time on a stretcher for not picking his head up. I'm not victim blaming right now, but his is his second conky for this. Not this exact play, but he has conkied before getting hit with his head down.
That's concerning. I hope he recovers from that though.
Yep.
But like as well though too, is it a headshot? I think Scheifele is taller than Jake Evans. And I think that's kind of where most of the argument is. Like, you see it all the time where guys, like, here's the thing. I'll be honest. If you go back and watch my reactions, when I see the hit, the first, like, instant I see the hit, I'm like, whoa, what a hit. Because the adrenaline in me is like, well, they scored. Screw this. At least we laid out the body. Here's the problem. We have a standard as people here that we know there's hits in the NHL. And we expect it. Okay. Oh man, he hit him. All right, he'll get up and then he'll kind of like be the bigger person and skate away. The problem is that Jake Evans doesn't get up.
Yep.
And that's when, and I think, and it's totally okay if you watch that hit the first time and you don't know what's happening and you say, wow, what a really solid hit. But afterwards you're like, oh no. Like, and it's one of those things where it's like Scheifele's hit is predatory in the sense of it's not in a good spot, but it's one of those things where it's
predatory because of...
Listen, Jake!
Hey, hold on.
You had your time. I'll give you it after.
Can I interrupt you for a sec, though?
Yes.
The NHL in the video says it's predatory.
Good, keep going. It is.
Yeah, keep going.
You say it's not.
Keep going.
Jake,
I'm just telling you what the NHL says.
Jake! Yes.
I'm not calling you brain dead, Zach. I'm calling people
I know that. I'm not arguing it's predatory. I'm saying this. Is that Scheifele in this play tiptoes the line of what he can get away with by the written rule to a T to an almost annoying degree. Is it a charging? He skates the length of the ice, but he glides at the end. Is it a hit to the head? Technically, no. Is it charging because he leaves his feet? Not until after he makes contact. And when people argue it's a clean hit, I guess. But at the same time, it's an unnecessary predatory hit. And that's why I think this is really becoming an issue. Also, and this is key, okay? When Kadri had a hit for that, because we can compare that example right there. Mm-hmm. And pretty much what you're saying now is Kadri got 8 games, and Kadri has had a history of hitting a down opponent into the boards, face first, and he also had that thing where he cross-checked Jacob DeBrusk in the face. And there's probably other instances there. I'm missing them off the top of my head. What you're telling me is that all that and the headshot that he had in this league, what Mark Schiefele did is equivalent to half of that.
Yes, and
smashing guy's face in.
And Zach, I'm going to let you keep taking this, Zach. I got to let Zach keep taking this, but because Zach brings up a good point, I've spent a lot of time for this podcast preparing, boys. I watched that video from the player safety on Kadri. They say injury, targeted the head, could have avoided, and they even note that Kadri is a repeat offender, and they say a 5-time repeat offender with player safety, therefore 8 games. So yes, the NHL Player Safety Committee believes that one hit from Mark Schiefele at this instance is egregious enough to be half of 5 instances of Nazem Kadri.
They were also, I feel, under immense pressure. Like, let's make this clear.
That's what I want to talk about.
That's a different point, Zach. Zach, that's a different point. Stick with the hit itself. We'll get into the pressure.
But like the hit itself, like I said in my video, I thought he'd get 3 games. And that being said, I thought they would just rule it because of a predatory hit. But the fact that they just pretty much like vindicated all of the
everything,
100% all the evidence is kind of annoying because now you're just like,
is it?
Yes, because I would be fine if they gave him I would be fine if they gave him 4 games and said because it's a predatory hit on just in a bad spot of the ice that doesn't need to happen, I would be fine if they give him 4 games back. But because they said 4 games on things that we can literally see are incorrect, frustrates the heck out of me. Like, I'm fine with you suspending him, but don't suspend him for things he didn't do.
So, Zach, are you telling me then you're more frustrated by what he did, or the fact that it sounds to me like you're more frustrated with the inconsistency of the call and the inconsistency of the NHL? Because, boys, this is the way I think of it. If I had seen hits similar to this, and I feel I've seen hits similar to this, I spent a whole video breaking it down. So I've seen similar instances of injury and bad hits, and I've seen less of a suspension. So are you saying you're more frustrated by the application of the suspension and the inconsistencies? Because I'm going to tell you, in minor hockey or junior hockey, there is a written rule book that says how many games you're going to get for a certain play. So if you get a gross misconduct, let's use Hockey Manitoba right now, because that's where I'm from. In Hockey Manitoba, if you get a gross misconduct in the last 10 minutes of a game that is a major, you automatically get the next game, and it says right in the rule book, +3 for injury, which is 4 games. Everybody knows minimum 4 games. There will be a hearing, and there could be more. In the NHL, open season. Season.
So the NHL gave a match penalty, and he gave them 2 games.
Okay, so let's go to let's go to Jake then. Let's talk about the consistency and application of the suspension. Jake, go ahead.
Now I want to make it clear before any fans jump on me thinking I'm brain dead for saying this. I agree with everything you both just said about the inconsistencies within the NHL's player safety department. Without a doubt, it is horrid. The biasy at times towards certain players and certain acts and the culture of hockey, I think it's disgusting at times. But what I want to talk about with this incident is just my opinion as a Jets fan, talking about one of my favorite players from the last decade. And that is Mark Schiefele and how his game is. Because when I look at a guy like that, if Mark Scheifele is going to be the player he is, how smart and dynamic, and he's going to do something as gross and bad as this in the middle of the emotions of a first round game loss, basically, for second round game 1, that's very big. I understand all the stuff leading up to it. But I think the NHL finally looking at the situation, looking at like what you said, Coach, addressing it and calling out everything as it was. I think if we can look at that against a star player, first-time offender in the playoffs, that could be the start of maybe the NHL finally being after the Tom Wilson shit, all the stretchers that stuff has happened without this playoffs as it is. Maybe it's them. I'm trying to be hopeful. Maybe it's not me trying for once in my life as a fan not be pessimistic with this league. But I think that maybe this is the start of us going in the right direction. I've seen fans say it's only because of East Coast media influence, and I disagree with that. I really strongly think that although I disagree with some of the elements the NHL said about the hit, I think 4 games is justified because of how predatory in nature it is. Everything leading up to it, like I've said before, I think it's a good idea that the NHL is finally showing that they'll crack down on NHL All-Stars doing dirty things. And I think that could be a step in the right direction for the league. I personally do.
So I'm going to hold on, Zach.
That's assuming it gets
Zach.
Yes.
Thank you.
Boy.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge you on that, and I want to see your response here, Jake. And then Zach, you'll get in. The NHL rule book and enforcement and safety committee is only created by 2 groups, the NHL general managers and the players. And the only way the players get a say is through collective bargaining. The players in collective bargaining have stated they want smaller suspensions because they can ask for bigger suspensions. The players have never asked for more clarity in the rule book. They've only asked for consistent application of that rule book, and they've asked for a maximum $5,000 fine. The NHL general managers, in my opinion, are happy to give out any suspension or play the game in any way they think is going to make them more money. That's the point of the game.
Yes.
So the rule book is written purposely through lawyer speak when you read it to make sure that the NHL isn't liable for any of the calls. Because Zach, as a referee, you know this, they put all the pressure in every rule on the referee to use his judgment. Every rule says referee's judgment. So
everything is
everything's
either a 2 and then with discretion can add on to it. It's not anything written.
The NHL is never culpable in this scenario the way the rules are written. So that being said, Jake, how is the NHL going to change and go in a new direction without a board of governors meeting where the board of governors and the general managers talk about the change? How are they going to go in a new direction without rewriting the rule books? How are they going to go in a new direction without consulting the players? It's not going to happen in the middle of the playoffs, period.
No, you're right, and I agree with that statement there, obviously. And you're right. You're not going to have any change without collective agreement and discussion throughout all the players, all the parties involved within the NHL and the organization that it is. But I look at this as maybe a start at a talking point. You know, there have been talking points leading up to this instant when you go back to the regular season this year with the whole Tom Wilson stuff. The John Tavares thing, I like to just point out right now, I don't consider it in this league because it was a freak accident that could have happened to any player at any point in NHL history. So I take that out. Talking about the stuff that happened, though, with Kadri and looking at all these elements that have happened in the playoffs just this year alone and with the regular season Tom Wilson issues with the Rangers game, I think there have been enough conversation points this season to be generated to drive that type of discussion that you're talking about, Ryan, in the offseason, where we might see changes, not maybe as soon as next season, but eventually down the road, because of these events, be applied that could help make this league more safe and more, acceptable of your consequences type thing, accept them and how it goes.
Is what you're saying, Jake, that Connor McDavid not getting 4 games for elbowing KK in the middle of a game, elbow up, targeting him, Connor McDavid for not getting 4 games for wholesaling a player from the Dallas Stars from behind headfirst into the boards. Hold on. The hits, we've already talked about Kadri, Wilson, all of that. So there are minimum 10 instances this year of talking points where nobody was suspended. But this is the time when a Winnipeg Jets player makes an egregious play. I'm not saying it's not egregious, but this is the time to send a message. This is it.
Yes. I think it is, because if you don't send it now, when will you?
And then how can you then not see? Then how can you not see? And I'm not saying I sit in this camp. Then how can you not see how Winnipeg Jets fans and players who sit on the other side of the fence don't think this isn't a target of the Winnipeg Jets and a big market move? Keep the Habs happy. They make the most amount of money in the league.
Okay, well, yeah, you can.
Why is this the guy?
You can also say that the FBI killed JFK.
I don't believe in
conspiracy theories.
I don't believe
that's what I'm saying, though. That's what it sounds like to me.
I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but I'm telling you this is the way people are feeling and perceiving it, because human beings love fair application of rules. And do you think this is a fair application compared to previous precedents throughout the league this year?
That's a hard question. Because
then the answer is no.
It's the beginning of a trend. That's what you think.
You think it's the beginning of a trend.
This is the beginning of a trend. But if it doesn't happen, then that completely out the window.
Yep. So Zach,
you're right. That's as it stands right now, I have to personally, as it stands for me, as a fan of hockey and as a fan of growth and change within the game, I have to put my hope on maybe this is them finally saying, "Fuck, we got to change it." I really think that's what the NHL is. I think that's finally has gone. And maybe I'm just insane. And that's okay. And I think that this could, and if I'm wrong, then I'm upset. And my opinion will eventually change on the road.
You're not insane. And people need to understand that any opinion that
be changed.
You're not insane. And people have to understand that any opinion you have, I have, Zach has, or they have can't be wrong. It's an opinion. It's a feeling. That hit will make you feel some way. No one can tell you you're wrong. The only thing we can say is what the NHL Safety Committee did. That's the only absolute answer in this. So the answer is done. So right. You don't have to feel bad about your opinion, nor does anybody on whatever side of the fence you sit on.
I feel bad for people that think that really don't have an opinion. I think it's clean. Those are the ones I feel bad for, because that's just the problem we have within the hockey community.
But I can tell you,
I'm not going to talk about this, but I don't know, lead us into it quickly. Okay. We're not going to talk about it. We're just touching upon it. Yeah. This hit and the whole culture of hockey, there's a reason why this is so polarizing right now. Because a large part of the fan base, a very large part of the NHL fan base, they think this is a clean hit. Like, in general, everything's fine, even the whole predatory nature. And that's a problem, too, because the culture of all of us as a collective needs to eventually change with the growth of hockey. It needs to be within the fans and the league.
So
both ways.
In 4 or 5 minutes, we'll come back to the culture of hockey, because that's a separate one. This one, let's just stay focused on the fair application of the rules. So at this point, I think what we're hearing you say, if I'm wrong, let me know, is that you're hoping this is the start of a trend, but it also sounds like you agree that this doesn't match the previous penalties that were handed out for other egregious hits.
It does not. Without it, it's not even close.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I do. I just tried. All my opinion is, just to clarify, I'm just trying to separate that, because I'm just this because okay. The reason why I'm trying to separate it, Ryan and Zach, is because, in my opinion, all those other hits, they weren't just. The suspensions and the fines, it wasn't enough. This, I feel like, is enough. I wanted 4 games. I thought 4 was 4. I thought they could have given more, personally. But I think that this is finally, even though I don't agree with everything the NHL is saying about the play, I still think there's enough reason and just behind, minus the whole headshot stuff, that 4 games make sense. And I think because this is them finally applying it correctly, even though in the past they failed to do so, that's why I'm more on board with them and trying to be optimistic with the change and the development, that'll come from this.
Now, we also don't, the NHL is a private entity, can do whatever it wants, But the whole basis of Western, if you want to call it Western justice or Western legal systems, is past precedents based on what was happened before and rules that are written today. And if you want to go ahead and change that, the owners of the rules must rewrite the rules so the arbitrator or judge can pass a different ruling. That didn't happen. The arbitrator and judge made up his own ruling this time because it doesn't fit past precedents for anything he's called, not that I can see. And here we are. So it oversteps the system as it's laid out by the NHL, which I will concede they are allowed to do as a private organization. Zach, how do you feel about it?
I don't like, it's frustrating because I guess the way I see it, I'm an extremely competitive person, and I don't feel like this is mentioned enough, but like thoughts and prayers to Jake Evans. I hope you get better, and I hope like you like recover from this as fast as you can. At the same time, though, there's this stupid competitive mind in me as well that's just like, okay, but why did we need to be the standard? Why did we have to start this trend? Mm-hmm. And also, too, it's just like,
because Scheifele did it. It's as simple as that.
Yes, but like,
why did Connor McDavid get away with it?
Yeah, but did Connor McDavid do it on an empty net goal with no one in the zone?
No, he did it in the middle of the neutral zone
for no reason, and he stuck his elbow out.
There's no reason. You're right, exactly. But when you look, but also, I think another thing you guys aren't thinking of in consideration is, let me ask you this as hockey fans. Ryan, you're older than me and Zach, so you have a more of a broader horizon when it comes to looking at the NHL as a whole and past experiences with hits like this. My dad has watched hockey for 40 years, and he agrees with me here. I've never seen anything in my life where guys went 200 feet like that just to hit like a high hit, dangerous hit on a play where you know it's going in.
Okay,
so personally, I've seen hits be thrown on guys scoring empty net, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the path traveled to the hit and the distance in that travel.
So hold on, Zach. What is the difference? Feet. What is the difference between 200 feet and 15 feet if the player is at full speed? He can only get to a certain speed.
Time.
Why? There's no difference. He's hitting them just as fast.
Watch that. Watch the play, man. It's all about time and how he's thinking. It's all up in here for Scheifele. Because the more he skates, the faster he builds, the acceleration, everything in his skate from the goal line and the opposing end of the ice to his own end. He needs enough time to realize, okay, that's going in. What am I going to do? Oh. He goes hard. He braces for the hit, and he wants to hurt.
So how can
I know I'm not Mark Scheifele. I don't know if he actually did. I'm just saying that, okay?
How can you though
watch it? That's what it looks like. There's a reason why it's called Predatory, because of it.
How can you though say that you've never seen a 200-foot hit when hybrid icing has only been in the league for 5 years? They used to skate 200 feet, and instead of getting the puck, there were many instances where they would blow each other up. The only difference is nobody got hurt on that one. Evans doesn't get hurt. It's a 2-minute penalty. That's the problem here. There's no application of the rule. The application is only because he's hurt. That's it.
Hitting, but you just don't do that in hockey. I'm a goon. I've been suspended for leagues in junior. In ball hockey, I've been suspended in floor hockey where you can't even cross the center line in a gym because I played with friends as an intramural. I've been suspended in that because I've hit too much and broken rules. I'm a goon. I don't like to play hockey clean. I like to be dirty. I think it's fun. And there's certain lines I don't cross as a guy. And I look at Scheifele as a professional, as smart as he is. I just can't justify any of that. And that's why it comes down to it. Like you said, Ryan, and you say a very good point that a lot of people don't realize, is that you make up your decision on this within the first minute. Yep. There's nothing you guys can say that's going to change my opinion on how Scheifele travels and the action that goes. And that's okay. And I understand everything you're saying, and it makes sense to me. Even the whole thing about icing and the rules being changing throughout time, I agree with that. It's just he knew what he was doing every step along the way. He planned it. It was thought. He wanted to deal some heat at the end of that game. And I think that's the wrong time, wrong place. It sets a bad example for you. And also, Zach, what you were saying, even if he doesn't get hurt and it's a 2-minute power play, it's just you're spitting on your name if you're Scheifele. You're a clean, respectable player, a guy who's been an all-star. You don't do that. You just don't need to. You don't want to stoop to the level of McDavid and all that controversy that he created around himself and that name. You don't want to become known for that as a guy that can get away for it.
Zach, let me ask you a question on that.
I just want to say one thing.
Answer the question. I want to hear it. I want Ryan's been killing it lately with these questions.
Yes. I just want to say one thing. I don't know if I saw this in an old video I watched. It was an old Rock'em Sock'em video. This hit gives me a lot of vibes. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it. If you haven't, please check it out. The Pavel Bure elbow. Yep. It just feels like a player it's a player that is just enough feeling like, and just taking matters in your own hands. And it's the elbow that knocks the guy out cold. And it's predatory the same way. It's just, it's when a star player feels that he is not it's just not okay. It's not fair to him. And then he's doing that. And that's wrong of Scheifele to do. And that's why I say he tiptoes the line, and I don't agree with it. I'm just saying that how the NHL is presenting it annoys me just as much.
Okay, so Zach, I want to ask you a question here, and I want to make a point for this podcast. Let's not use any examples pre-2010. The league has changed. It's not fair to use something from Pavel Bure. I think it's an irrelevant piece, unless we're going to talk culture, which we're not talking yet. So the question I have to you then, Jake posed, you don't go out to intentionally injure a player when you're going to hit him. However, every body check, you're a goalie. This is why I'm asking you this. Every body check that has ever been thrown, do you believe in your head as a goalie that players aren't thinking, I am going to hit this guy as hard as humanly possible? They're not thinking I'm going to end his life.
In terms of hitting me or in terms of hitting my team?
No, in terms of hitting a player. Like when a player makes a body check, how many times, especially open ice or when they have, let's say 10 feet, 15 feet, how many times do you think a player doesn't think in the back of his head, I'm going to blow this guy up?
I think.
No, I
think though, Ryan. I think.
Okay. And the reason I asked this, but let me ask Zach.
Yeah, like from what I get from that is that like players don't go out with the mindset, obviously, of injuring a guy, but I also feel like that players.
When I say blowing up,
players, there's an expectation.
When I say blowing up, I mean you're going to hit him as hard as possible, but your expectation isn't to hospitalize him. You're just hitting him as hard as you can.
Right, because you've grown to an expectation that you can just let out all of your energy into one guy, and it's fine. And that's how the sport is played in there. Like that's the expectation from them. So then Jake, what is the difference between him doing that this way and every other hit that's ever been thrown in open ice hockey? But we're talking intent right now. We're just talking intent. So his intent, we're upset that he's intending to blow up. And I agree. He is absolutely intending to blow up Evans. He has no other thought in his mind other than I'm going to put you on your back. Period. That's what he's going to do. I think everybody agrees. But that's every hit in the NHL. I don't think Scheifele had the intent to hospitalize Evans. No, he meant to hit him hard. That's.
Do you?
I don't think he meant to hospitalize him.
I see I bring this back to suicide passes. That's the same thing. If you're the player coming in to hit a guy on a suicide pass, compare it to what happened with Buffalo and Laine back in his rookie year.
Yep.
Look at that. If you're the Buffalo player, you do absolutely nothing wrong. It's clean hit. We all know that, even though we were upset at the time. But let me ask you that question. As a hockey player there, you see his head down. When a guy's head's down, I think it's a little bit kind of on you as the person and in the moment, even though it's hard to, and I know it's hard because I've thrown hits where I've regretted after too, because I'm like, it was in the moment and I shouldn't have done that. And that happens in sports. Look at that. Look, there's no single sport out there where you're going as fast as you are on skates, like when you are with hockey. So it's different. Things happen in split seconds. Look at Johnny T. That was a split second thing that nothing could have changed, right? But with this, Scheifele saw the bad angle. If you look at how much time that Scheifele saw where he knew he was off balance on a bad angle, not properly looking, and he still went the 200 feet, and he still made the decision to follow through. And that's where
hold on, Zach.
He's not off balance till the end.
Hold on, Zach. Hold on, guys.
I'm not gonna rage, but come on. I've seen every angle there, and no. You can't say that to me there, man. Come on. You know what, guys? There's enough time to see that.
Let's stay away, Zach. Let's stay away from breaking down the clip because it's over. The NHL has made the ruling. It's done. There's no point. We're just now talking about the after hit in terms of hitting a player in hockey. Yes, he went to blow him up. Yes, he had intent. But I'm arguing that every player always has that intent. And you talk about a suicide pass. Right. You know what? That's been part of hockey forever. And we will get into the culture. But if you have the ability,
suicide passes, I'm not complaining about that.
Yeah, if you have the ability to hit a player on his front and blow him up, players do that all the time. The only difference is Evans is hurt.
And look, suicide passes are different because 99% of the time if you're gonna hit the guy on the suicide pass, it's not your fault because you're like, oh fuck it, you're gonna pay for a bad mistake and you hit him, and that's just how it happens.
But isn't that predatory?
No, really, because
I think
sometimes with suicide,
the guy's head's down.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're hitting his body and it's a clean hit and it's not anything.
Okay,
vicious,
hold on.
It's predatory.
Okay, so let me put this to you then. The concussion that happened, because if you look at the doctor's breakdown of it, happens before he hits the ice. So people roasted me, and I thought it was when he hits the ice. So if two players are going in the opposite direction and collide going full speed like both were at 200 pounds, it doesn't matter what situation it's in. A conky is happening because brain is hitting wall. So then that hit should never be made. And then that tells me that you shouldn't have open ice hitting in the game.
But then you're leaning in, yeah, well, that's exactly what you're saying. You're leaning into the fact that hitting should be just removed from the game entirely if you're talking about everything being predatory, because when you make contact, like you said, you can knock the guy out before he's even hit the ice, depending on how he lands, and that's true. But that's the same. You can poke that in any sport, with the whole football issues that come with concussions, and hockey is the same thing with concussion talk. I think you can't remove hitting from the game, but you can add rules and make it so that if you want to take the risk on hitting a guy, you have to pay the price for what happens. And I think that's fair. You should be held accountable for your actions. And that comes back to, Ryan, what we were talking about earlier, with everything kind of connecting is this giant circle of everything branching off and meeting back on one thing, is that the league is going to have to look at this. They handled it this way. Whether or not they continue to handle things this way moving forward and change the way that the NHL presents their rule book and everything in between, that's what this is going to stem from. Right. Yeah. And we can't really compare, like you said, past hits, even things where it's like suicide passing because intent, like Zach says, is it predatory? You're right. Here's the problem. And it's not a problem in a way because it's good discussion. You're all absolutely right on your own different spectrums because of your opinions. But when you combine them all together, we have so many, the big, narrative arc of this, I think, in my opinion, and I think all of you will agree, it's the NHL stuck in the middle of all of this. They're the judge and they're the judge, jury, and executioner when it comes to all this. And they need to realize that if they want to have that much power, you got to start to call things fair and non-biased. This was not a fairly called thing when you look at the past with everything else that's happened with the same type of plays. But you got to start now. So we could talk about suicide passes all day long. We could talk about the whole nature of hitting the guy with his head down, because you know what? Everyone's opinion on that is going to be different. But I think it comes down to, like I said before, everyone's decision was made in the first minute. I think that everyone's decision grows off of that and can change. But when you look at this, I don't see the arguments that you guys are making in my opinion, and that's okay because, like I said, my decisions have been made. But I think that when I take every element into consideration, just as my own person, I can't justify any of it. So maybe we're just going in circles at this point, Ryan. But
so I think
I honestly, it's where we draw the line, with how many things you connect to it.
I think to me, there's two sides of it. There's the moral argument, and if you ask me, should the NHL allow plays like this morally? Nope. But there's the pragmatic argument to it, which is who is in control of ensuring these plays never happen? It's the NHL. And the NHL has a job to arbitrate fairly. Well, they don't because they're private. I've said it.
Never have.
But in this scenario, the only two people that matter, there's three parties. There's the fans, there's the owners, there's the players. And you know who doesn't matter? The fans. People jump down my throat for this, but the reason they don't matter, they will only matter until they turn off their TV, stop watching the NHL as a whole, and ratings do this. Gary Bettman and the owners aren't stupid. They think, or at least perceive, the ratings or revenue are doing this, regardless of what we all think we're tuning into with cable, because they would change it. The players accept a regular amount of risk going in. The one thing we haven't heard from, we've heard a lot of outrage from players or from fans. I really haven't heard a player outside of the Montreal Canadiens coming out saying, yeah, this isn't hockey. They're all saying the same thing. Evans should have kept his head up. They're victim blaming Evans for not bringing up his head. These are the players agreeing amongst themselves, and they agree every time they allow a hit like this to happen, which happens 10 to 15 times a year with injury, to sign a contract, stand in the ice, and play the game this way. If they wanted it changed, they would go ahead and wear better protective equipment, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
I think they, if they wanted to get hurt less, why are they wearing
cages would help that actually.
Yeah,
full cages with a chin strap would help.
Back to is, I think what you're actually doing with this, Ryan, is swinging us into our next real topic. With this, relating to this, is the culture of hockey in the game. I would argue completely that the reason why they exist is just the culture of hockey within a locker room. I've played hockey my whole life, and I hate the culture surrounding hockey within the boys' club and all that, and how it is in every league. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
And everything that ramps up in the locker room. And that's exactly what you're saying.
And that's exactly where I'm going with this, is that the people who are hockey fans today, in my opinion, most of them, I'm going to say 80%. I have no data on that, but I'm going to say 80%. I'm going to say 80% of the fans for hockey today are actually people that have played the game or grown up in a hockey culture city, because it hasn't grown very many places outside of the 4 M's in the United States, Canada, and a couple spots over in Europe and Russia. So that being the case, you have to grow up in this game to understand what's going on. And the players seem to be okay with that and don't want to change. The overall arching idea of this is, if they wanted to improve as a league, they would look at the NBA, redo the rules, resell the game, and have a goal of what do they want to do? Do they want to appeal to new fans, or do they want to appeal to old fans? And the trouble with this is they're stuck in the middle. And Our
Actually,
opinion as fans doesn't matter.
Man.
Doesn't matter to them.
Mhm.
The only time it will matter is if we go away. And here's the question. Are you or anybody else going to go away en masse?
Nope.
Zach, are you going away?
Nope.
Do you know anyone who's quit and turned off the TV?
Nope.
Do you know anyone that isn't not going to watch game 2 on Friday?
Nope.
Are you jacked for game 2?
I'm nervous.
But you're going to watch it, right? You're like, you want to see the train wreck, don't you?
What are you talking about? Of course I'm going to watch it.
You want to see the train wreck.
I have
Everyone
61
wants to see the
games
train
behind
wreck. And here's the
Not
problem.
stopping now.
Talk about the culture.
Everyone's going to tune in.
Why does the Rangers and the Capitals get the payoff with the big ratings, the Tom Wilson, the fights and everything, and this series gets Scheifele is suspended? There might not
Also,
actually be any repercussions for the Jets. This might be a very
people who
calm,
called it
boring
out
game.
The people who called out the whole thing, like just a little touch on this, and then we'll keep moving.
Yeah.
People who called it out from the Rangers organization, $250,000 fine.
Yes.
Puts you in your place.
Not
Like,
only did they call it out and get a $250,000 fine, 3 people got fired.
ooh,
They got fired.
I'm related to one
Tom
of them
Wilson
distantly.
took out 3 freaking jobs
James Dolan, ladies and gentlemen.
with no suspension. He took out Panarin for 3 games. He took out a president. He took out a general
He took out
manager,
Jay-
which resulted in a coach falling too as well. And Mark Schiefele gets 4 games. Tom Wilson gets 4 guys, 1 guy hurt, 3 guys fired, and a $250K fine to the Rangers.
And the knock-on effect
It's not
of
fair. It's not.
of
It's
Vucinovic.
it's biased, right?
It's a clown show.
I get that.
It's the
It
NHL
is,
clown show.
But the NHL's been a clown show for a long
This was regular season.
So then if you acknowledge it's a clown show, if you acknowledge the past precedent sucks, what makes you think this is going to change it other than the fact that Mark Scheifele is getting punished? It's not going to change it.
I have to be optimistic. It's how I am with the game. I'm a very pro change. I'm all for change.
So-
I hate old
Oh,
players.
no,
So when it
we're
doesn't,
just
hold
saying
on.
that we don't have any faith in it.
Jake, when it
I
doesn't,
try to.
if it doesn't change, I'm going to say when, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. If it doesn't change and another hit like this occurs in the playoffs and it's not suspended the same and the Jets are knocked out in 3, how do you feel as a fan now? What do you want to
Honestly,
watch?
I'm kind of. Can I honestly? You guys want to hear
Yes.
my honest answer?
Yeah.
If the Jets get swept this round, I'm happy they got swept.
No,
Because
no,
it proves
no,
they're a
no,
bad
no,
team
no.
and that the coaches should be fired still. And if it gets
No,
back
no,
to my
no,
regular
no,
season
no, no,
argument.
no.
You
That's
asked my
not what we're
opinion.
saying.
That's my opinion. I don't know. I know what you're saying, but that's my opinion on it. I really don't care because either way, for me as a fan of the Jets and how everything works with this team and an organization and everything with the regular season of covering them, I win either way because I still don't like this team with their direction. Just because they're in the second round doesn't really change it for me. I just got on board because it's a playoff hype. Miracles happen. There's a reason why the Mighty Ducks movie and freaking look at the miracles in the hockey and everything that's happened in this game. I'm supporting them because of my team. But if they get swept without this even without this hit, my opinion still changes. My opinion stands the team. I blame coaching because it's just a miracle that happened first.
So Zach, how do you feel then,
I don't want
Zach?
to answer that. I can't answer that.
Zach, how do you
Okay,
feel
but-
then? So a player on the Knights beat the Avs. I'm just making crap up. They go into round 3.
Yeah.
Ryan Reeves does something again where he knees on the back of a player's head after ripping off his helmet and doesn't get suspended.
His face into the post the
Yep.
game before.
Yeah, and doesn't get suspended. And the Knights go on to win the cup, but the Jets are out in 4. Why are the Jets the sacrificial lamb? How do you feel?
I would be annoyed, and also like, and let's not. No, okay, no, but okay. Well, the Knights has an extra. Let's be honest. The Knights carries extra baggage if that so happens to go their way. Let's be honest. Like, I think as hockey fans, we can both. Knights tick a lot of people off because of how they've been able to operate. Knights, nah. But I'm not getting into that here.
I'll
say this though.
I don't want to get into it either.
I'll say it. I just don't. There's a couple things I don't like. But if the Jets are the sacrificial lamb, I'll have to deal with it because I have literally no control.
Yep.
I won't like it at all. And it's one of those things where you can look back on it and be like, okay, so we thought we were going in the right direction. It's just fake goods. It's just fake goods. Like, I would feel completely deceived and I would be rightfully annoyed by that.
Yep.
Because like, we shouldn't have like, it's ironically why the same reason I get mad at the Jets. Don't show me like flashes of things where you can make progress and then revert back to it and be like, nah, we're not going to do that. Because that annoys me worse than just being bad in general.
Do you think
because at least then I know what I'm getting.
Do you think, Zach, that the NHL Player Safety Committee has turned a corner and will now enforce this congruently, consistently, and make sure that these 4-game suspensions continue for these hits?
4 games? No.
Yeah, me neither.
I'll say 2 to 3 maybe, but like I I don't mean to be pessimistic, which is really a reversal of roles for me and Jake at this point, but I don't mean to be pessimistic, but I need a pattern, for example, isn't just one thing repeating. A pattern is once you have at least two things in a row to repeat. I need to see more than one.
Yep. I just
need evidence.
Yep. Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, I will be fully okay with the NHL if they start applying these rules consistently. If everybody gets big suspensions, I'm fine with it. You want to know the side of the fence I actually sit on? I think the player should be suspended for as long as the other player's hurt. I think he should lose every bit of money. I would go one step further and say that player should pay the other player money while he is out and hurt.
In certain situations, yeah, Coach, 100%.
But it's not going to happen because the NHL is what it is. It's the clown show. It's the NHL. So the only thing that I see fans getting upset on both sides. One, because one of their players got murdered on a dirty hit, and it was. And then I see other fans going, well, why are we the ones being picked on unfairly when Ryan Reeves is punching a guy in the back of the head when he's down? Tom Wilson's pile driving a guy after shredding his helmet off. That's not fair. You're not going to do it going forward. Why my team?
Tom, that Reeves thing's hard for me there because personally, like, I guess, you know, after everything I've said about Scheifele, for me to come out and say this, that one didn't upset me as much as other people did.
Boom! Okay, boom! Done! Hold on! Done! There's there it is. Everybody has an opinion on something, and you're allowed to be right, you're allowed to be wrong, but the only opinion that matters is that of NHL player safety. This is what they've done. And frankly, when people say, how can you believe this is a joke? Right there. That's how people can believe this is a joke, because it ends up, everyone's like, I like this. I don't like this. This is okay. That's not okay. It doesn't ever feel fair.
See, and you know what the problem is, like you said, Ryan, is that you have the league doesn't care about the fans when you compare it to everything else. To care about GMs, ownership, GMs, and all that with the players and the fans. The three corners of that triangle, right? When it comes to us, we're at the bottom of it. They just don't care, and that's fine. But the problem is, like you said, we now have this problem where we feel like we're just a jury screaming out, trying to find the consensus opinion, find it for the NHL, and they never listen to it. That's how a lot of fans feel with their approach with this. They feel like no matter what happens, fans are always going to be able to have their opinions on it, and there's always going to be the extreme. There's always going to be the extreme on both sides, right? Yep. No suspension, clean hit. Yeah. Give them the fucking out for the rest of the playoffs, right? Like, people are livid, angry, swearing at everyone, swearing at children. That's just how people get. It's how it is in politics, how it is in life.
Yep.
But the NHL is going to have to call things cleanly, and they're going to have to change the culture eventually. And it comes back to the whole culture argument. Would you think? Let me ask you this, Coach. You've been around, you've coached, you've played, you've watched a lot longer than me and Zach have. Do you think that the NHL has it in them as a league, in their past, the history, and everything they are, as the whole Boy Scout, mentality? Do you think that it will ever be weaned out of the NHL? With the way times are changing in the world, or do you think it's just going to be they're stuck in their ways and let's just see how it goes until someone actually does die on the ice?
Correct, and I don't even know. I'm going to tell you, I don't even know if a death will change it. I don't know if. Yeah, I don't even know if a death will change it.
Here's a sad thing.
Here's the
guy died this year.
Yep.
He wasn't in the NHL, and he got hit in the head with a shot.
Yep.
But there was no repercussions.
They didn't mention it. But Jake, all it takes is a freak accident.
Yeah, no, but there's a difference between an accidental play where a guy dies like that, because it's just shot in a block shot. I mean, it is different, Zach. It's completely different. There's no intent on killing a guy.
I know that, but I'm just saying that whether it's accidental or not, the end result doesn't matter in that moment. I get what you're saying.
How many, Jake, think about this. This is where my logic comes from. If somebody dies, they don't care. How many lawsuits have players brought to them with endless evidence of concussions and CTEs that have ruined their lives, caused suicide, caused people to snap on their partners and their children, and made them basically live an absolutely horrible life, and the NHL fought it tooth and nail and won every single direction they went? What makes you think even death would change it?
It's a battle of attrition, and they have the money to fight it.
Yeah, but that's because that's not the NHL's problem, man. That's the NFL. That's every sport with contact. That's just how it goes and everything. They're going to shut that up and they're going to cover it up.
But Jake, what is the difference if a player dies on the ice immediately or dies 20 years later due to hemorrhaging brain problems, due to concussions, fights, and just good, clean checks where he didn't get injured? What's the difference? He's dead. Due to the game.
The huge difference, and I'm surprised you guys don't see it, is we see it live. People don't care what happens 25 years down the line in a courtroom if they find out he died because he got hit too many times in the head. If we watch,
yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes,
Zach.
they do.
No, they don't. Then why is there a conversation? No, they don't. Do not give me that, because you know why? Where's the conversation, like you said, with this guy that died this year? It's not there because people don't care, and they saw it didn't happen in this league. If you're telling me right now, if you watch John Tavares get his neck snapped on national television in Game 1 and he's dead, his children.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't be shocked.
That wouldn't
I'm not
change
saying
your opinion on a guy dying 40 years down the line and is 20 years after he's retired because he has brain injury. That's hugely different because they can come
I'm saying I have the same opinion for both, and I don't like either.
So hold on. Before you guys yell, think about the John Tavares hit. Was that avoidable? I don't think it was.
No, it wasn't. No, sorry, it was not a complete accident. But that's different circumstances. Okay, fine. Maybe that's a bad example then. Fine. Because it's a freak accident. I can understand that then. Maybe that doesn't change people's minds. Okay. Then taking the Evans hit. If Evans dies after Scheifele does that, does that not maybe change your opinion on holy fuck and look like everything in the perspective at all? Compared to a guy dying and an argument happening by lawyers and family in a courtroom when we don't get to see it other than paintings and sketches from the court sketches and in the papers and on a news article. That's different. It is different. You cannot say that. That's
so hold on. Let's go ahead and be pragmatic again. Let's Google horrific injuries in hockey, and what you will find is a young man, bless his heart, from St. Vital, who ended up getting hit from behind illegally into the boards, snapping his neck and paralyzing him. And hockey is still in about last year. It was horrible.
Okay.
My heart shattered.
Really, I don't remember hearing about that.
My heart just shattered for this kid. It was just awful. And it was an accident in some senses, but the player made a decision to hit him. I'm sure that player can barely live with himself at this point. He's a child. Both people are children. This is the most heartbreaking, wrenching story ever. And this is why the conversation keeps steering towards removing hitting from kids hockey at all levels until they are paid in the NHL. And it is still a controversial topic, which is shocking. People say
that's stupid.
Well, but it is. There are parents that are still saying that,
hey, men with strength they don't know how to control because they've never hit anyone in their life, other than when they get to it, like maybe the juniors or like the AHL.
But what's worse, a player signing $1 million a year contract and taking an acceptable risk in a game, or a child getting hit and being paralyzed for no money?
Okay, yeah, I get that.
Okay,
but
so
that could happen in any sport.
Well, and there you go. That's where
kids die running, playing. Kids die skipping rope and hitting their head in a certain way.
And that's where my argument comes from in the NHL that it happens. Hold on, Zach. That's where my argument comes from in the NHL that it happens. And I actually sit on the fence that I agree that there is no point in having body checking at that level, because if I could save that kid from getting paralyzed and take checking out of the game, I would do it because he's not paid. Just like I would take fighting out of junior because they're not paid. I don't want to see a 17-year-old in the CHL fall and crack his head on the ice for no money. He's not an adult. He didn't sign a deal. He's not getting paid to do a job. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see Jordan Tutu jump a bench and beat up a bunch of guys and have fans go wild. It sucks. But in the NHL, where men make a grown male, well, I mean, it could be female too, grown adult decision to sign a contract for money to do a job, there's got to be some acceptance of risk.
Yeah, but that goes. See, maybe I don't understand the argument you guys are pitching with this, because to me it's a two-sided die with the exact same side. You're just flipping the story and making it sound different with each thing. Because to me, it's just all about progressing yourselves and opening yourselves up to what's around you and how times are changing. And in everything in life, politics don't do it, countries don't do it, people don't do it. It happens with all of us. That's why, as humans, as a culture, everything's so toxic around us. There's a reason why everyone hates each other right now, because you've got stuck in your ways, wanting change, and in the middle, you don't find a harmony. You find more and more chaos because it's them clashing. There's no middle ground anymore, and that's fine. Except it's not. You need someone with power to guide people and guide the anger and the change. And when that doesn't happen within the NHL, by them as an organization with Gary Bettman and all of his people, that's on them to change it. If you have a hit and then it comes down to what we're talking about here, about people dying on the ice, and depending on the hit. Everything we're talking about right now is all hypotheticals except that it's happened, and I understand that. But, Ryan, okay, and then you're talking about, Ryan, you're talking about minor leagues and stuff like that. I want to step away from that because that's it. Yeah, my personal opinion, I think that's a different argument about the culture of just hockey as a casual sport. Like how I would pick up a ball and go play at a local court with friends. Basketball, that's just hockey as a sport, the culture of it, right? There's a reason why me and my friends, we go play hockey down there, and we play in a box, we're hitting each other a little bit for fun because it's part of the game. It's what we grew up doing. You got to if you want that to change, like what you're saying, ease out. But that's a different argument than what we're talking about right now. Right now, we're talking about the NHL hitting Mark Schiefele, the suspensions, everything that's being handled and how they're handling it as a league. And I think that the whole death argument, the whole argument about, oh, do they handle it fairly, biased, and everything on every side, it comes down to the point where it has to be changed. It all comes back to change. To me, it feels like we're just ending back at the same stop, really. We're going on a big loop and coming back to the same thing, it feels like.
We are at the same thing because, as I said in the original point, the only person that can make this change is someone in power. You asked the question if I thought it was going to happen. I do not foresee anybody in a general manager, owner role, or a players union role, or 51% of the players over this hit or things that are happening in hockey today looking for change.
There's a reason NHL is a joke league considered by the NHL general media, and it's not because they don't suspend players, it's because no one cares about hockey. There's a reason why every team fails in the U.S. I'm sorry, U.S. markets, it's true. There's a reason why there's a thing that, even though Max Kellerman said it a year ago on ESPN, he got ripped for it, it's true. There's usually about 30,000, 20,000 hockey fans in the city, and those are the guys that show up every game to the games in certain areas. And that's the truth with some fan bases. Guys like Arizona and certain fan bases, that's just how it is. And I don't know. I'm just done with this argument. Like you have to look at the NHL. You're failing. You're not even a top considered league. People don't even watch hockey, even though it's one of the best sports, by far better than football even. And I love football. You got to be able to look and be like, maybe if we change people having controversies about guys almost dying on the ice and all this stuff, because it doesn't happen in any other league other than maybe football. But like, look at the controversy that surrounds suspensions in football with what happens with players off the field. That's a huge controversy. Look at what happens with the NHL in games and how they don't get any type of clarity and consistency. You have to look at you're the NHL and be like, you know what? Maybe it's finally time, and maybe people will like our league more. The NBA did it in the 90s. They changed their game, and if you think Jordan is the reason why the NBA got to where it was, that's true. But the rule changes in the late 90s and early 2000s that changed it to what we are right now. That's what made the game as popular as it is now. You got to be able to get that. You have to market speed. You have to look and change it.
We agree.
You have to use this as change. You have to use this as change. If not, you're just going to be stuck in mediocrity if you're the league.
We agree with you, but we're saying that we're very concerned about. Yes. Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you're saying. I'm just saying, like.
But then why are you interrupting then? Because it's not.
Because it's a lot to hear.
You think that it's the same thing, and we're all on the same page. Then why are we still talking right now? And why is there this conversation going around right now if we're all deep on the same page, deep down past everything?
Because you nailed the massive point. You nailed it. The culture of the fans want change, and the game will never grow if it doesn't change. We all agree. But the point Zach and I are making is we are on the pessimistic side that the only thing that will come out of this hit is a 4-game suspension for Scheifele and no change in the NHL in the immediate or near future, regardless of whether it has to happen or not. That's our point. That's it.
So you genuinely think, as fans of the Jets, non-biased, try to be non-biased. Ryan, you're good at this. Zach, sometimes you're not, and that's okay because neither am I. But you're actually telling me, as like trying to be non-biased, that you think the reason the Mark Schiefele got dished out for is to make the Habs and East media and everything happy, and they just wanted to shut this up?
Nope. I don't think that. I think this. Hold on. Just let me say it. Jake, you've said a lot, man. You've said a lot.
You said a lot.
The only thing I am saying, there's no conspiracy theory, is that the NHL is inept at applying its rules fairly, and it sucks. Winnipeg coincidentally got hit with this. Could happen to anybody. They could have been hit with an unfair ruling from the NHL Safety Committee, and it stinks that way. And I don't think the league is going to change or is turning a corner. That's it. I think the league should. I would love it to. I would love to see the culture of hockey change, but the only people that are going to do that is the NHL itself and the players. I don't think it's going to happen. Zach, go ahead.
I kind of echo that. I would say, like, it's similarly, like, it's not that I don't want this to be better. I do. It's just that in the grand scheme of things, I just feel like I worry that this will become insignificant.
Yep.
I worry that this will just become another suspension.
Yep.
And because when you think about stuff like that, like, because I feel like worst comes to worst, if Scheifele does it again, for example, I feel like they're just going to put it in the pile of repeat offender, and that's it.
Yep.
And that's the problem, is like, they'll be like, why is he getting so many games? Because he's a repeat offender. It's not because of the thing he's doing. And that's what I'm worried about. And I understand you're optimistic about it, and I want to be optimistic too. And I'm just saying mostly because, and it's most of the time, like half of it is just because you are giving all these points that I feel I almost like almost obligated to just think of it the other way and just consider what could happen from that. And that's the thing, like, we haven't seen a thing happen afterwards. And you know what? If in a week, if this happens again and the same suspension happens, next week we can talk about this. And I will tell you that you so far are 2 for 2 and you're on, and you seem to have gotten a message out. And it has been an accurate message that has been conveyed through the league. But until then, I still have to just wait. I can hope, but I have to wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
But let me just poke one hole in that.
Okay.
Do not, and it's not because I disagree. It's just why it's why I'm so optimistic. And I've touched on this. Don't you think the NHL being so out of characteristic, if there's no conspiracy theory applied here about solving and making Montreal happy, if you don't think there's a conspiracy theory involved there, isn't this enough change by the NHL to show that, wow, maybe they're waking up? Because to me it is. Because when was the last time you saw the NHL agreeing with every single thing that most Jurassic fans were saying? Never.
Well, okay. I'm going to answer that.
And that's enough. That's enough for me to maybe like, okay, maybe they're waking up on the extreme side, but maybe they're woken up a little bit. And that's why I'm so optimistic, because like you guys have said, this is so out of character for them. So out of character. Just this year alone, with that last month, it's out of character.
Yeah,
so why now?
But the NHL,
conspiracy theory, why now?
The NHL has had plenty of moments of this, and they've blown it every time. They suspended Matt Cook for 20 games. They didn't boot him from the league. Nothing changed. Matt Cook did it again. Here we are. They did it to Torres for 25 games, came back, he did it again. There is a lengthy history and pattern of the NHL and analysts and people saying they've turned the corner, and then they didn't. And even you even want to look at the fact that the NHL can't apply. It's a mafia, man. The reason they ended up firing the New York Islanders, and they can talk about performance all they want. That owner was pissed. The reason, like remember the John Scott All-Star game? Ryan, this isn't an injury. Where are you going with this? The John Scott All-Star game was open voting.
The
fans voted John Scott. They sabotaged him because it doesn't work. This is the NHL's MO. Period. This is what they do.
NBA too. It's happening in the NBA too.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it any better.
Now the NBA,
these are futile.
The NBA, when you make a point, these owners are more progressive. I think they're smarter. And they know how to make money. There is money to be had in the NHL because all owners care about is money by opening up to new markets and removing crap like this from the game and changing the culture of hockey. We all agree, big money in it. Huge.
Exactly.
And better for the fans.
I don't understand. I don't understand why you want to make less money.
But they do. They do. I don't know why they do, but they do.
Would you think it's a logical argument that they don't want to suspend players because they think, like, and this is an argument that you hear every now and then, they don't want to suspend players that have high money value because you would risk losing that money value in them in certain games? Like if Connor McDavid is suspended for 4 games, do you draw the same amount from those 4 games?
Does LeBron James get the same type of love he gets in the media, even though he's the most, unloyal, crap person?
I wouldn't know. I'm not a basketball fan. I just heard the bad things.
Stick with hockey. Type of thing. Why did the slashing rule come in this year? Because a star player got his thumb broken.
Yeah, that's true.
They protect star players. And you can't argue they protect star players.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's a very good thing.
It is,
in my opinion.
But why did it take a star player getting his thumb broken?
What was it again? My mind is blanking here.
Was it Crosby's broken thumb or McDavid's? It was somebody's broken thumb.
It was Crosby's.
Okay, because that gives me bad memories of the Mark the Thought thing, and nothing then would have happened after that.
Yeah, right? I might be wrong, but it was a star player that broke his hand.
That was long ago, though.
They were like, this is a useless check, and I said it for 10 years that slashing on the hands is useless. It does nothing. It just injures a player. Why would you do it? And it took a star player for them to do that, which means everybody else is in the meat grinder, and they're going to throw it away, which is where Ryan's pessimistic attitude comes from.
Yeah,
I get that.
I've never seen once a positive example of the NHL improving their game for better until the media and public and legal, more importantly, the legal pressure mounted.
Yeah.
Okay, but then do you think there was legal pressure involved with this right now, with this hit with Scheifele then?
No.
There's media, massive media pressure.
The media was insane. Massive.
Especially after the Tom Wilson incident. The NHL is just covering its butt. That's why I don't think this was applied fairly. I don't think it's a conspiracy, because a conspiracy means like you're thinking through this. A business is an entity that is self-interested. It's self-interested, and the self-interest of the NHL went, wow, we got lambasted for the Wilson call. This hit just happened. People are pissed. It's everywhere. The world is watching because it's the playoffs. We better make an example.
Worth noting, they gave Buchnevich 2 games the next game that they played because he cross-checked the guy.
Yeah, of course he did.
So like because they knew that they had to cover a bunch right afterwards. They were like, well, we can't give him a fine. The guy who ironically was one of the people that got like pretty much taken out by Wilson in that play was Buchnevich and Panarin.
Well, how's it not a mafia? They fire 2 guys from the Rangers. They don't suspend Wilson. Buchnevich just gets some. As the NHL culture said, he uses the code and gets his pound of flesh, and he's suspended. So I forgot about that. Wilson got Buchnevich for 2 games. He kicked Panarin out for 3 games. He got 2 guys fired, which ends up in a coach fired.
For the season.
And I'm supposed to have trust that the NHL is going to do something.
Panarin was out for the season.
Yeah,
you're out. Your coach. He was out for the whole season.
Well, that's 3 games.
He did more to the Rangers.
Wasn't it like a week and a half? I felt like
it was 3 games. It was only 3 games.
He did more to the Rangers in a weekend than like he did to the Pittsburgh Penguins in their entire existence. It was terrifying.
Yeah. So everybody gets screwed, and then we end up in this area. And the Department of Player Safety. I'm going to put a bow on this because we're at the hour. The Department of Player Safety says everything that Mark Scheifele did was wrong, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But they will never apply it to another player again that way. It'll never happen.
I hope that they do, because they should.
I hope they do too.
Right.
We can all agree that I think Evans, we feel sorry for him. He shouldn't have been hurt.
Yes.
The game of hockey.
Thank God he's out of the hotel. So shout out to him for being okay.
The game of hockey is never going to grow with the attitude that it has today. We can all agree with that. The culture has to change and it's never going to grow.
We said we wouldn't cover this at the whole time.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And where we disagree is one simple point.
We kind of knew.
Yeah. And then where we disagree is one simple point to wrap it up, which is Jake is hopeful and there are fans hopeful that a message must be sent and this will be the change the world needs. And the other half think you didn't apply the rules fairly. We all agree on that. You didn't apply the rules fairly and we have no hope for the future for any future calls. That's the summary of it. And people on Twitter, social media, Instagram, my comments down below are trying to argue this in 140 characters or less. It took us an hour. We could do this for another 6.
Oh, you kidding? I do this all week long.
We probably will. So everybody, thank you for tuning in. This was episode 5 of the Prairie Puck Podcast. Next week, it will be on the Nolan Hockey Podcast. I have it saved in my playlist. Please go see Zach Nolan's channel. Check it out and subscribe. He's on his way to 1,000 subs. Let's help him out, guys. He's fantastic at what he does. Give him any feedback you want in the comments. Tell him to shorten his videos because they need to be short. Back me up on that. And his personality is fantastic. Jake at Peg City Hockey, please go visit his page. He is the most passionate, engaged fan you can see here. He wears his heart on his freaking sleeve. You will never get censored content from him.
And on his
his morals are checked in. He knows where he stands. He knows where he wants. And for pragmatic, at least as unbiased as you can get from a biased Jets fan review. The
Socrates of the group.
Stick with me on it. And if you just hate what was said through this whole podcast, then you're a normal human being because there's nothing that can be said to make everybody happy. Everybody feels dirty. And I'm going to leave a little bow on it. I wish this didn't happen because it's ruined the series. It's ruined fun. I love Habs fans. I don't like the Habs. That's a difference. Players, different. Team, different. Fans, fantastic. And now this feels like us versus them. You have to draw a line in the sand. This sucks. It sucks. I wish it didn't happen. So this has been Prairie Puck Podcast, episode 5. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great night, day, or afternoon.